Two of the most popular relocation destinations in the entire country have been Myrtle Beach and Greenville, South Carolina. As someone who's spent the majority of their life in South Carolina and has seen these two areas really blossom and grow in so many different ways, it's truly amazing to me that both of them have been ranked as a top 10 place to move to and a top 10 place where they're seeing the most incoming people moving to the area. I often, because I live here in Greenville, I have several conversations with people that are comparing the two areas together. So I want to give you the true pros and cons of living in both locations to help you make the most informed decision. Hi, I'm Evan Whaley, your favorite Greenville realtor. Let's start with Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach has been a really attractive option for people to move to. They've seen a lot of people moving for a lot of different reasons to Myrtle Beach. The first and the very obvious one, of course, is that you're at the beach. If you're someone that wants a coastal environment, you've got great beaches that are right there in Myrtle Beach, so you've got a lot of options. Myrtle Beach has really catered a lot towards the retirement community, so you've got a lot of options there as well when you have more 55 and up communities. So you've got some really attractive features for someone thinking about retiring. Some other really great things about moving to the Myrtle Beach area is that if you're someone that's a golfer, that has some of the best golf in the entire country, and especially here in the Southeast. Myrtle Beach has a very high tourism environment, so that can be a pro and a con depending on who you are and what you like. If you're someone that wants to have new people coming into town and you want some of the growth that comes with tourism and a lot of the other businesses that come with that, Myrtle Beach is going to offer that for you, whereas a place like Greenville, it does have tourism. It has been ranked a great place, but it's not to the same level of a place like Myrtle Beach where you have everyone flocking there during the summer and spring months, from everything from spring break to coming there for family vacation. Something that's been really attractive for Myrtle Beach for a lot of people is when people are looking for a beach town in South Carolina, they might start with Charleston, they might look at Hilton Head and some of the other beaches that are around, and they'll find that Myrtle Beach just has more affordable real estate than those two locations. So that's how a lot of people tend to end up in Myrtle Beach. Along with, there's a lot of other attractive things about living in Myrtle Beach, but those tend to be the things that I hear from people, so it is very affordable beach real estate. Now let's get into the cons of living in Myrtle Beach. The first thing that you got to factor in is your insurance cost. Insurance has gone up tremendously in any coastal area. I've heard that a bunch from people moving from Florida to moving from Charleston to moving from Myrtle Beach and all the other coastal and beach environments. Everything from wind to rain to flooding, all those things are factors that people have to consider, and the insurance costs can be pretty substantial depending on where you're going to move to. So I always recommend, if someone is looking into those areas, consult with an insurance advisor first, just to get an idea of what the average prices of insurance are in that particular area, because that could potentially price you out. Something else you need to consider on the insurance front is, will you need flood insurance? Especially in areas like Charleston and Myrtle Beach, they tend to be low to sea level, so there is a lot of homes that are in flood zones. So it is something you need to know and be aware of before you start making your relocation plan. The next thing is, I've already mentioned floods and hurricanes and all these things. You've got to actually consider the weather. Do you want to deal with flooding? Do you want to deal with hurricanes? Do you want to deal with hurricane evacuations? If that's something you're not accustomed to, that can seem really intimidating. And people thinking about leaving their home 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, times a year because a hurricane is coming through, that can be really scary and intimidating. And it's a big reason why I actually hear that when people move there, that they decide to move to a place like Greenville or another location. They didn't account for that, and they didn't think about how that would impact their lifestyle. Something else that I mentioned that can be a pro or a con is that it is a high tourism area. So during the spring and summer months, you're going to have a lot of people coming in, everything from families to spring breakers, coming in and enjoying the beach with you. So the beach can get crowded, the traffic can get pretty tough. So it's just something that you want to know and you want to be aware of. So make sure if you do decide to relocate to one of those areas, you have a local advisor, and we know several. So if you need someone and that's the area you decide to move to, please let us know and we can help you find the right person. But just know that you really need someone that knows that area and can give you the true ins and outs of what you're going to really have and what you're going to live with every day and what you're going to experience each season and each year. Another really huge factor that you need to consider whenever you're thinking about the affordability of an area, and I tend to see this in a lot of coastal areas, is the HOA fees tend to be a lot higher than an area like Greenville, South Carolina. So when you factor in the insurance and HOA costs, it's just something you need to be aware of for your monthly budget. So again, just make sure you're doing the right research so you know what those figures are going to be. In Greenville, of course, we've got a variety of HOA options that cost next to nothing to higher dollar, monthly fees, all that kind of stuff. But if I had to pick an average, we're normally around $350 to $650 a year for most communities, as long as they're not cutting your lawn and those kind of things. In some of these coastal areas, you can easily spend that per month. So just keep that in mind when you're factoring that into your overall budget considerations. This is something that could be a pro or a con as well. You have Coastal Carolina University, which is there at the beach. It's in Conway. So you're going to have a college atmosphere that's in that town. That can be a really positive thing because it's going to bring some youthful energy to your town, but also can bring some of the negativity with, nightclubs and partying and those kind of things if that's not really what you're looking for. So just keep that in mind as well. Greenville does have some college campuses, but they're just not to the size that Coastal University is, and they don't quite have the same kind of campus and college feel, which again can be a pro or a con depending on what you're looking for. So there you have it. That's my take on Myrtle Beach. Again, Myrtle Beach can be a really amazing place to live. It can be the right place for the right person. You just need to know what you're getting into, and ultimately there is no perfect place. Every place has its pros and has its cons. I am of course a little bit biased because I live here, my family lives here in Greenville, South Carolina. We purposely chose to move to this area just because we love it. It fits us and what we want in a town and in a city, and it's great for our particular needs. Doesn't mean that Myrtle Beach isn't a phenomenal place to be. Just keep in mind all the different factors that I mentioned. Let's talk about Greenville though. What makes Greenville such a special place? Well, Greenville's been ranked as one of the top downtowns in the entire world. Greenville's been ranked as a great foodie city, a great performing arts city. You've got Falls Park, which is just an absolutely breathtaking downtown experience. It's unlike any other. The downtown is highly walkable, so you get all the amenities right there at your doorstep. You have over 200 restaurants that are in the downtown area. That's really created a lot of demand for moving to Greenville, South Carolina, and it's why 2.5 people are moving here every single day. It's because it is such an attractive place to live. When we look at the home prices in Greenville, South Carolina, it is below the national average, and it's a good bit below the national average. And the credit to South Carolina, overall home prices are below the national average. Taxes in the whole state of South Carolina tend to be lower, and when we look at property taxes, they tend to be some of the lowest in the entire country. So that's something for the entire state. But when we look at Greenville, to have all these really amazing amenities, to have what most people consider this big city feel and have the amenities of a big city, but to be a small city, that makes it a really attractive option for someone thinking about relocating. One of the most common things that I hear from people when they come to visit Greenville that aren't locals, they say that downtown Greenville is so clean. They just weren't expecting a downtown to be that clean, and they weren't expecting the people to be that friendly. That is also, part of the Southeast, that's kind of known for the Southern culture. And depending on who you are, you experience that in different ways in different places, but Greenville has been ranked several times as one of the friendliest places in the entire country to live. So I think that the testament still stands that Greenville is a great place to move for those reasons. If you're someone that's looking for mountains and hiking and being outdoors, riding mountain bikes, this is a really great place to be. Everything from the Swamp Rabbit Trail to Paris Mountain to all of our different parks that are here in the area, Greenville has done an awesome job of really trying to find ways to keep people active and get them outdoors. That's been something that most people always comment on whenever they come and visit or when they move to the area. They really love that we have such an active and vibrant community. Another really positive feature of Greenville is the master planning that the city has done. Greenville has gone through a massive change and development over the last 20 years, which has made it such an attractive place to be. And Greenville really takes a master plan into account with any of the developments that they do, which is really well thought out and methodical, which makes people feel like the growth just doesn't happen haphazardly. It happens intentionally, and the resources that you need are always coming right alongside of the growth, which has been truly special to see. Greenville has a great location and great interstate system, which makes it really accessible. So that's something that I often hear. People love that the suburbs here in Greenville have a quick drive into the downtown. You can live in so many different locations and be less than 30 minutes from downtown Greenville, which is just really great when you're in some of the other coastal communities because they're built on islands and because it's really hard for them to create the right infrastructure. Traffic feels a lot worse, and during certain seasonality, it could take you an hour and a half to get to the downtown or to the beach or whatever it may be. Whereas in Greenville, it's been really well thought out. Of course, there's traffic here. There's traffic everywhere, and traffic is such a subjective thing. But overall, most people, if they're in the surrounding area 15 miles or so, can get to downtown Greenville in 30 minutes and get to their place of work and get to grocery stores, and all those things have been really well thought out, which is something I find that most people really appreciate. Lastly, I do want to mention Greenville's prime location again. So when we think about the location, we are really close to the interstate system. So if you want to get to Atlanta or Charlotte or even get down to a coastal area, area, all those are available to you in less than a 3.5-hour drive, which people tend to really appreciate for quick day trips or weekend trips. As I mentioned, there's not a perfect place. Let's talk about some of the cons of Greenville. I've already done a video, if you want to click this one up here after you're done watching, about all the cons of living in Greenville, but I'll touch on some of those right now. One of the first things that I have to say is if you're someone looking for a big metro commuting transportation system, that's not quite here in Greenville yet. We don't have a metro link or a train or railway station that really runs through the whole city and is from commuting from suburbs. Most people use Uber or Lyft if they're not using their own car here in town. A pretty obvious con that I think I just want to point out is that you're 3.5 hours away from the beach. So if you're someone that really loves the beach, Myrtle Beach probably is a better location for you if you really need to live there and you want to spend a substantial amount of time at the beach. Now, if you're someone who just wants to go a couple times a year and you want to take a vacation, then great, Greenville could be the perfect place for you. Another con that I need to point out is Greenville is growing. Like I mentioned, 2.5 people are moving here every day. The beautiful thing is the city does have a master plan for growth, but at the end of the day, growth is always a little messy. You're going to run into some traffic issues. You're going to hit certain things that are going to be a little bit uncomfortable with any level of growth. I think Greenville's handled it really well, but overall, there are still areas that are more high traffic. You have congestion and buildup. So it's just something to keep in mind that you are experiencing growth, which is amazing on one hand, but then you get to some of the frustrations on the other hand with construction as well. And the last thing that I want to point out is if you're someone just thinking about moving to the state of South Carolina and you're thinking about it from a strictly budget standpoint, there are more affordable places in the state of South Carolina to move to than Greenville. There's also more affordable places to move to than Myrtle Beach. Greenville and Myrtle Beach tend to be fairly comparable from a price point standpoint now, but there are just much more affordable places in the state of South Carolina. They may not offer the same level of resources that both Myrtle Beach and Greenville do, but that's something that I often hear is people want to move to the state of South Carolina because they hear about how affordable it is. And the price points are more affordable than the national average, like I've already mentioned, but they're not substantially lower like some of the other areas of South Carolina are. You may not have the same resources that these two areas offer, but if you're just strictly looking at it from a budget standpoint, there are places that you can move to in the state that are more affordable. So there you have it. There's my pros and cons of living in Myrtle Beach and Greenville, South Carolina. If you've ever visited the areas before, drop a comment down below. What did I miss? What's something that someone should be aware of when thinking about relocating to these two areas? And if you're thinking about moving and you haven't visited the areas, what's something that you want to know? What's a question that you really want to know about both areas? Drop that comment down below. I'd love to hear from you.